Appreciate you guys coming out today and getting a chance to go through this process a little bit with, I guess, a new face. Hopefully we can continue to build upon the tradition and continue to develop the guys and help them win ball games for the Tigers. You know, in speaking with Coach Bergman, it's funny that a lot of those things tend to get lost in, you know, the landscape of college baseball, where, you know, our job is to help get guys better, no doubt. But when you look at what that really is, I think kids, when they come here, they have envisions of playing in Omaha. They have envisions of playing in Major League stadiums one day. But to get to those points, you have to win for the Tigers. And you have to do the things that you need to do on a daily basis that's going to help you become a better player and ultimately help you become a better teammate that, you know, ends up being really something that, whether you're a reliever, whether you're a starter, whether you're a guy that comes in on the back end of the game, you help the Tigers win. And that's what my focus is going to be with this group of guys this year. That will continue through next year as well. And we will hopefully continue again to build upon the tradition that's been set here by so many guys in the past. And there's such a long list of names of contributors. And I think that's one thing that, if really stands out to me, looking from the outside in and now taking a chance to look at it from the inside out, is where do those guys fit in, how do they fit in, and ultimately we want them to contribute in any capacity, whether that's in a short stint facing one or two guys, or get us as deep as you can as a starter. So if anybody has any questions.
You guys wait for Ashley to give you a mic.
Hey Nate, Cookie Riley with The Advertiser. I was sort of curious as to, this roster's got a lot of left-handed pitchers, and what's sort of your philosophy on the importance of having that really heavy balance of lefties and righties, because I think you guys have more lefties this year than righties.
Well, no disrespect to right-handers, but you know, you can never have enough left-handers. And my track record with being fortunate enough to be in the dugout with left-handers over the years, they've kind of paved the way with the success. I think there's some different things that are unique that they possess, being able to do some things relative to the running game with guys in front of them, certainly to offset some of the better left-handed bats who maybe didn't necessarily get to face those guys in high school, so now it's a different look for them. But with the young ones, I think there's a balance. You look at experience with Herring, as Coach Johnson had mentioned earlier, Ackenhausen, guys who have been through the battles and have some experience, and now you're starting to get in those younger guys with Anderson and Brown and Johnson. You know, there's a lot of things to like with the pieces that are there. And a guy like Gage Jump, who's worked on the West Coast, the game's played a little bit different there. So each one of them is going to have some growing pains. Each one of them is going to have some things that I think they can impart upon the group and help those guys accelerate their game. And that'll be fun to kind of get those guys going. But I like the number that we're starting with, and hopefully we can continue to get all those guys in the mix.
Hey Nate, Matt Moscone from ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. If you would, maybe just why you chose to leave a really good program at A&M and join Coach Jay here at LSU.
Well, I think that you could hang your hat on many things. It starts with Jay. It starts with the history of the program. It starts with really what I believe that he's building here, or adding to, I should say, because this place has certainly built a tremendous foundation, and I think is really kind of the beacon of college baseball. And when you look at what Jay's been able to do in a short time, our time together in Arizona, while we didn't get to the top of the mountain in our second year together, I think we're still kind of in the midst of that, because I really don't count that COVID year, so we've still got some time on the clock. But having some conversations with him and getting an understanding of how he lets me work and develop with our guys, we've got a good working relationship with a lot of things that we're familiar with. Jay reminded me of a story when we were out recruiting, ironically, at the University of Arizona many years ago, and he and I were standing outside the gate waiting for the event to get started where we could watch some guys, and that was kind of the first steps in our relationship moving forward. And we've battled on the recruiting trails. We've battled against each other in competition, and I think at one point he outlined it best when he gave me an opportunity to coach for him the first time, that he got sick and tired of trying to get some hits and some runs off of our pitchers, and I said, well, I'm sick and tired of trying to get your hitters out. So now at least we get to just do that in the fall and attack, whichever team we're playing on a particular day together.
Hey, Coach, Glenn West, Go 247. Just the last couple of years of being in the SEC and coaching in this conference, what have you learned about that you can kind of take into this job and how you can continue to grow the pitching staff here?
Sure. I think that when you look at it, there's certainly a larger population base east of the Mississippi, so there are more players to draw from. The style of play is a little bit different. I think a lot of times your players allow you to play it in a certain fashion. There's a physicality with certain players that you look at. The home run is certainly more prevalent. Strikeouts are also more prevalent. But at the end of the day, it's still baseball. And the team that tends to play it the best is the team that ends up on top when it's all said and done. So having been through it, it's interesting because you experience some things differently. I haven't been to some of the spots in this league, so when you walk in, you get a sense to how does the park play, what do the elements have to do with it. Sometimes how does the fan base impact the game or how does it not. But I think I've scratched off just about every team in this league now as far as having played against them at some point, whether it be in the postseason or in the regular season the last couple of years. So there's a lot of things, and it's constantly evolving and moving based on how their rosters change and how ours does. So it's been a learning curve, but I think that we picked up on it pretty quick.
Hey, Coach, Matt Trent, Channel 2 here in Baton Rouge. Can you just describe or give us a outline of your pitching philosophies, how it relates to development of arms, just how you are as a pitching coach and how you get the best out of pitchers?
Yeah, I think you got to identify what they do well and look for some of those areas that you can start to make some progress in a quick fashion. Naturally, they want to be as a competitor, they want to be the best at everything that they can do, whether that's have the best fastball on the team, the best breaking ball, the best command. We need to narrow it down and focus on the areas that they can control, and then do that in an aggressive fashion. Try to get to whatever they do well, and whether that's get 3 outs for us in the 8th inning or whether that's get us as deep as they can in the game from the beginning, then we'll identify those things for each guy. But ultimately, I think it's helping them become the best version of themselves, both on and off the field. And then when they represent LSU, it's not just between the white lines, it's outside of that. So we take a pretty comprehensive approach into a lot of things that we feel like can benefit them and then ultimately help the university and the program as a whole.
Yeah, Ron Higgins, Shreveport Bossier Journal. How do you, this is a third pitching coach in 3 years, and all these guys have different voices in their heads. So how does your voice get in their head and not get confused with voices they've heard before? I guess kind of the best of everybody to kind of create a really good picture.
Sure. I think you start out, and we'll have some discussion here shortly with the pitching staff as a whole, but if you get into professional baseball, you're probably going to have a different guy at every level. So they're getting a head start on that. The other side of it is I'm familiar with JK and I'm familiar with Wes and how they've gone about things, having crossed paths with them. JK certainly more than Wes, but you try to make sure that the player takes some ownership. Let them allow themselves to have some say in their development, what it really means to them. Let them put it in their terms, because I learned a long time ago as a coach that you walk into this thinking, I'm going to fix everybody, we're going to get everything dialed up, and we're going to storm the beach and really take advantage of everything right from the get-go. And the reality of it is that as a coach, if you're trying to force-feed a lot of things down their throat, some kids don't digest it very well. They don't absorb a lot of the information. So as the years have gone by, I let them put it into their terms, try to get a better understanding things. Then we find a kind of a common ground or a vocabulary that we can all work within that really kind of sticks with a lot of them. And then you just continue to work it every day. I think it's a lot of times much like my wife and her gardening. You plant the garden and it starts out nice and you water it and everything looks great, but there's some upkeep to it. You got to continue to pull the weeds and you got to continue to stay on top of things. So for our guys, it'll be the same thing where we're working on it every day. We'll have some back and forth, and ultimately, they have to take ownership of it because it is their career. We're trying to do the best that we can in their time here together.
Just a big part of this last year was just the implementation of the different technological advancements that have come with pitching. I mean, just what are your thoughts on that, and just do you expect to continue that here after last year?
Yeah, I think as baseball continues to evolve, we're going to continue to see technology be a part of it. Is it the driving force? No, it gives us information because at the end of the day, you need to be able to look in the eyes of that player and understand, can you send him back out for another inning? Is he suited to do the things that you need to ask? Because it's the guy in the uniform more than it is the information that's on the iPad screen or on the computer screen. So that gives us some guidance, much like my phone does when we're out recruiting and you're trying to find your way to the field. That helps you get there, but you're still the guy driving the car. And it's ultimately going to be the player that gets it done. And a lot of times, too, I think that the information can be misleading because once you get in the competition, it might say this guy struggles with a breaking ball or he struggles with the fastball or whatever, and then all of a sudden that hitter doesn't look to be struggling with that particular pitch. So you need to be able to adjust on the fly and have some understanding that just because that's what it says, we're not going to be so connected to that and so ingrained into that's the way it's going to be. But we will continue to utilize it because I do think it gives us some feedback to understand our guys making some growth and some strides in certain areas.
How excited are you with this freshman class, especially with a guy like Cam Johnson, who a lot of us here didn't really expect to come to LSU in the first place?
Extremely. When the first time I saw him walk in the office door, I thought maybe he was an upperclassman, and I had to do a double take because physically he looks like a Aroldis Chapman to me. I mean, he's a kid who's got background in strength conditioning with his father. He's put his time in, and he's put in the work. Talking to Brown and talking to Anderson and some of the other younger guys, it's exciting because for them it's new. It's something that for them LSU means the world, and they want to make sure that they maximize their time here. So my job is to match that excitement level with those guys and be able to really kind of pave a path for them based on, one, my experiences in this league, two, my experiences in the postseason, and then try to mesh those things together with the things that they do well, and then make sure that they're ready, because I think a lot of times we look at it as, okay, they're freshmen. Well, they've been playing travel ball, and they've been playing at a high level for a long time. Freshmen in the sense of they don't know maybe what the conference play looks like. They don't know what those challenges are that come with traveling now and managing your time and your schedule. But beyond that, when you start looking at their pure talent and what they possess, it's certainly a good place to start.
Got time for two more guys?
Because you took the job a few days before the draft. Aside from Johnson, were there any pleasant surprises as you were watching the draft?
I think I've watched swings with Larson. I mean, there's some good swings in there that he possesses. Having Travinsky back, having Milazzo back, I mean, you're talking about a lot of experience behind the plate. Guys that know how to play in the postseason, guys that know how to help guys that are on the mound managing at bat or managing an inning, and that calming presence and that calming influence of guys who have played in the postseason, played for a national title, and even just gone through a Tuesday game where maybe you don't have your best stuff and they're able to kind of smooth out the wrinkles or calm the waters for those guys. So when I think of it, I look at it as the sum of the parts, not any one individual that's going to do it, because we're looking at a team sport. Yeah, the pitcher has to do his job, catcher has to do his job, shortstop, center fielder, and so forth. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think we made it through pretty good, and I'm as excited about the guys who are going to be able to play one more time here at Alex Box as much as I am for the guys who are going to go out there and play for the first time.
Leah Van, the Advocate. Jay was just saying that Jake Brown, you'll train as a two-way player. Obviously, there's also Gavin Guidry on the roster. What has been kind of your approach in training guys to be two-way players and kind of managing that at the collegiate level?
Yeah, going back to even my early days at UNLV, when I first started cutting my teeth as a coach, we had some there, had some at Oregon State, and then Jay and I had a couple together at Arizona. So you really try to look out for their arm first, because I think that the volume of the rotation with their throwing, with their swings, there's a lot of things that can be more from a fatigue standpoint, because most of these kids, people forget, they're usually playing football this time of year at high school. They're not doing baseball-heavy activities. Maybe they play basketball in between is kind of another adjustment, and then they work in the baseball season at that point. So between Coach McMillan, our strength and conditioning coach, Isaac Trujillo, our trainer, Jay, and myself, we all kind of put together the work, and then we get some feedback from the player as well. But we'll try to make sure that we handle their arm first, and then we'll handle their volume of their swings and their activity, whether they be ground balls, fly balls, things like that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.